do, and they do. So let's start then. Welcome, Chris, Nance, and Eleanor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you please introduce yourself just quickly, like 2 minutes? Let's start with Eleanor.
Yes, hello. So my name is Eleanor Bokedal. I work as policy and strategic director at strategic communications director at Swedish Incubators and Science Parks. So we're the member organization for Sweden's incubators and science parks, which is different types of innovation environments supporting innovation and startups to scale in Sweden all across the country. We have 63 members. And what I do, I have a background I started working in the US for the Swedish American Chamber of Commerce. And then when I came back to Sweden, I actually was a part of founding this organization back in 2010. And since then, I've been working with and within different incubators and science parks. I was also a marketing director at an edge AI startup for a few years. And now since 3 years, I work mainly with advocacy questions and policy for incubators, science parks, and startups and scale-ups, both nationally in Sweden and across the EU.
Oh, you're going to have a lot of interesting stories to tell us, I assume. Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, I'm Chris, founder of Frostlight. It's been around for, almost 15 years now. I think around the 14th year.
And time is flying, right? Sometimes I get this flashback as well when it comes to KassaiLaw. How can it be like 30 years old? Yes, so.
Yeah, I just feel old now. And we generally help other companies develop cool tech stuff. Everything from apps, web solutions, and recently, obviously, mainly focused on AI solutions and those kind of things. And since 2016, we've been having some kind of presence in Asia. We started in Singapore and have started partnerships in a little bit everywhere. Japan, Taiwan, and Hong Kong as well.
Thank you. Nance?
So my name is Nance. I'm from Paris originally. I'm based in Osaka, Japan. I'm the owner of a boutique marketing agency that helps non-Japanese companies do better for the market. So I am the founder also of 2 startup companies making software and audio hardware for gamers and movie enthusiasts, as you can see in the background. And with a background of around 20 years of consulting for startup companies in Europe before moving to Japan.
Thank you very much. So I believe we can jump right into it because we have like 1 hour, and I guess we could talk like hours and hours on how to expand between Asia and Europe. So let's start with Asia then. So from Europe to Asia, Nance and Chris, because there are several news, obviously, which we can read that the digital economy, for example, in Southeast Asia is really booming. So it's expected to reach $600 billion in gross merchandise value by 2030, or that they have an enormous, so the Asia Pacific region has a very, very enormous pace when it comes to GDP growth within technology. And they also expect it to outpace Europe and the US, actually. So the most common, as I also mentioned previously, that the most common question, which seems to be a very broad one, of course, so let's then break it down to countries maybe, but which country to choose, how to start the expansion plans when it comes to strategy making. So let's start with you, Nance. Like, why Japan?
So personally, because my wife is Japanese, and
that's a nice shortcut then. You saved yourself a lot of trouble with exploring the others.
Sure. And I always had affinities for Japan. So in terms of Japanese goods, France is the first country in Europe in terms of buying Japanese goods. So we are Japanophile in France. In terms of starting point, Japan is a paradox, so I would recommend it if you speak Japanese or if you are learning Japanese, and I would not recommend it as well, because Japan is 154th place in the ranking of easiest place to make to start a business in.
And
so,
speaking
yes.
Japanese is then basically inevitable, right?
If you want to do business here, yes, there's no way around it. Only 2% of the population have basic English skills, and from that, only 0.8% actually can, at a business level, can speak at a business level. So it's very, very little. And
what are those sectors which are booming at the moment very much when it comes to Japan? Because that could be like one direction, of course, when it comes to expansion. So, but actually the companies are working at, or which area?
AI, mostly AI. So even before AI was booming, before ChatGPT kind of started this gold rush, any startup with AI in their pitch in Japan will get enormous sums of money. Now it's a little bit different. Crypto as well. So there was the first adopters in crypto solutions. So, and in terms of technology, anything automotive related software solution, of course, Toyota, Honda, Mitsubishi, Nissan. So those are all very big companies, and they invest as well a lot in startups.
Thank you. And Chris, how about you? As a Swedish company, why Singapore and then beyond, as you said?
Yeah, the way I started in Singapore was basically just chancing it because of language and so on. But it turned out that it was probably a good starting point, and even further after that. English-wise, of course, I mean, it's the local language, that makes a huge difference. But also as a Swede and European, culture-wise, it was very similar, both in how they act and want to do business, but also very used to doing business with people outside. Singapore is a very small country, so they're very used to it. It wasn't that strange with this white person showing up, wanted to do cool stuff. So I always found that Singapore was a very good starting point.
And you also experienced a very welcoming business environment, if I understand it correctly.
Sorry?
You also experienced very welcoming business environment.
Yeah, I think so. They were very more straight to the point. You always have the in Asia there could be a yes doesn't always mean yes, but there was the closest to how we do it here in Singapore. Okay. So yeah.
We're going to talk about the cultural experiences a bit more later on, but now let's turn around the focus from Asia to Europe. Eleanor, do you have some good insights in? I know you have. So can you share us with some insights in that sense?
In entering Europe, you mean?
Yes.
Well, yes. I mean, we are a part of. We have 27 member countries in the EU, which makes it, at least should make it easier to enter Europe for companies abroad. We are working hard on having getting a single market that works smoothly I know the European Union is now working on a startup and scale-up strategy, which should include, at least, we're expecting it to include something called the 28 regime, which should make it easier for any company, at least startups and scale-ups, to enter the European market. No matter where you start, it should be easy to both move around. So we're expecting it to include things such as a startup visa, pan-European one. If you start in one country, it's easy to move as a talent. It's easy to move around. We're also expecting it to include something called a legal entity for European startups. So if you start a startup in one country, it's easy to both do business, to attract capital, and to just access markets within the EU. So, but for now, there are countries where it's easier than others to start. I wouldn't say that Sweden is the best. I should say it, but I can't really. We are lagging behind when it comes to regulatories for starting companies and scaling companies. So we see the Netherlands, Estonia is probably the fastest one. You can start a company within an hour, and they have something called e-residency as well. Yeah, I wish I could say Sweden, but at least if you enter Europe, hopefully with the new startup and scale-up strategy and the upcoming Innovation Act, we need to make it easier to move around, because compared to Asia, we're a small region and we're even smaller countries.
Yes, indeed, but we are working very hard on making it more attractive, right? All of us, in a sense. And you mentioned the startup visa. I just wanted to add that actually in several services, for example, fintech-related services, there is a so-called passporting institution, and then this also means that if you get a specific license for that service under the regulatory regime, which you have to work in Europe, then you are free to provide services in all member states as well. So there are actually several, I wouldn't say tries, but like directions which it can make it very, or most probably, beneficial to companies. Let's hope. And thank you very much. And then back to Asia. You guys mentioned that you have experience with several other countries other than Japan and Singapore. And what would be the bigger differences, or how would you describe if we would like to expand our horizon over these two countries and beyond?
No?
Chris? Okay. So it really depends what you do. So it really depends what problem you solve, what your startup aims to do, your expectations. Expanding to Asia at an early stage can be time-consuming, expensive, but rewarding, but with no guarantees of securing funding or partners. Or there's very good accelerator programs in Japan that connects startups to corporate entities, to do partnerships, to do funding. So there's a lot going on, but still it depends. It depends what problem you solve, what your startup is all about. I had a lot of clients willing to come to Japan or seeking our help with Japan and the US, and not understanding the complexity of certifications, market, culture. They just want a big market, but it's not So it's always paradoxal with Japan is yes, sure, but it really depends on what you want to achieve, how you want to achieve. But for Japan, especially if you want to reach big money, big funding, big partners, you must go through incubators. So nobody will answer your emails if you do cold email in Japan. You need to follow the rule. You need to follow the process. Japan is all about the rules, more so for foreigners. They love to break them. But at the end of the day, this is it. And the last thing about this, in Asia in particular, in fintech, for example, let's take fintech, there are emerging countries with terrific potential. In the Philippines, the sleeping tiger, Thailand, which is undergoing catastrophe right now, but other than that has a green rush with new funds, new money. There's a lot of emerging countries, Vietnam as well, which is starting to get some manufacturing away from China. So there's needs for software, there's need for fintech solution, AI solution in emerging countries. And for a young startup, if you are first in Thailand or the Philippines, it is already enough to plan for the next 5 years and for your next market. So sometimes our clients tend to forget that and just want to go to the big league immediately, but maybe a step in between is good. Hong Kong is very difficult as well, but Singapore, because of English, will be a good guess, I guess.
Thank you. And Chris, you said the same basically about Singapore, so that's why you chose that place to start with, but you also mentioned then you have no experience with other countries too. Can you please tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, and it is kind of different though, what type of business you do. But if I understand your question, it's more about kind of startups or companies with a product that want to expand to Asia. And if you take Singapore and Hong Kong, for example, they very much would like you to exist there. So they're very helpful. Hong Kong, I think, has been doing that a little bit more hardcore, but Singapore is also doing that now. Like they really want to help you with everything to have an entity and start up locally there. And if you do that, then they're very, very helpful. In my experience, we haven't done that because we are working with startups rather than we are a startup, but that's my experience.
And do you think that entering a partnership could be actually a good strategy? Because, you know, that's the general question that, okay, what strategy should I follow if I would like to enter? Because from Europe, Asia seems like, you know, there are a lot of borders in between. So it seems like very far away and a bit scary, I think. Yeah. And the other way around as well, probably. Elinor is gonna be able to tell some stories there. So what's the best strategy? Should it be like entering a partnership, or what's your experience and how you did that, of course?
Yeah, I'm all for partnerships. I think. Yeah,
no, sorry.
I think that's the fastest way. You want to explore something else because you get sort of a highway in, mainly from just understanding the country. And I always like to work with people and companies in different countries that understand both the local country and elsewhere, because that has always been the fastest way to get something happening without eliminating as many culture shocks as possible. So I'm all for partnerships. I think that's in general the fastest way that you can have something happen far away from home.
So you also use that strategy.
Sorry?
You also use that strategy yourself as well. So you also found that it's very useful in practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Like every time we explore a new country that we're interested in doing business with, it's always initially through partnerships, for sure. that we try to find something that's mutually beneficial. And then it's very important too that the kind of people that you have these partnerships with, it's two things that needs to really match. And one, obviously, business-wise, like this would be beneficial for both, but also kind of personality-wise, the way we like to do business. It's very important to find kind of the right people that matches the way you think.
Thank you. And Nance, what's your opinion about partnership? Do you think it's a good strategy?
Yes, it is for medium-sized companies and young startup. It definitely is. You need someone that can help you navigate the market. It will eventually. You will lose less money. It will be easier. But if you are a young professional, digital nomad, for example, and you wish to come to Japan and at the same time do your startup, it depends on your profile, basically. If you are one stand man and you're a bit of a modern adventurer, then do it yourself. Go to incubators in Europe. Visit Asia to see. So I will always recommend to visit the country before doing business with this country. You need to understand a little bit. So the language is very important. So I always say in a globalized world, you need to localize. So you need to understand either the language or minimum of the culture. In terms of partnership, yes, definitely you need partners here. That's what Chris said. That's the highway to minimizing culture shock and blocking points.
Thank you. And then back to Europe, Elinor. It's us who are working here basically in the core. And when it comes to our clients, actually the partnership idea, so from Asia to Europe, the partnership idea, I have to be honest, usually don't really come up very often. So they seem to be pretty individualistic. Okay, I want to enter Europe. Which country should I do? This is my service, then please advise. What's your experience?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different. I mean, usually when a country expands to Europe from Asia, it's because they have some kind of state-of-the-art technology that we really need here in Europe. So it's a lot easier to establish. One thing, it's a lot easier to actually start a business or establish your existing business in Europe. You can do it within an incubator because European incubators work with startups worldwide, or start your company, establish your company, and just really start selling your unique technology. So I would say it's easier to as a starting point. Then, I mean, if you really want a fast track, I would definitely recommend starting out in an incubator, or if you're a bigger company, a science park, because what they are really anchored in the specific region or the country where they operate, or the industry. So they can introduce you to, it's really a fast track. They can introduce you to customers. So I would definitely recommend partner up with some kind of ecosystem actor.
And when it comes to Asian companies, Elinor, have you seen some tendencies in the last I don't know, decade or whatsoever? Because you are the perfect person also have like building bridges in incubators, science park, and so on. So have you noticed some tendencies actually, or do you work with Asian companies?
We more work with Asian ecosystem players, I would say. We cooperate a lot with Singapore because we see it as an entry point to the Asian market for our startups. It's always tricky because we want them to stay in Europe, we want them to stay in Sweden, we don't want them to move. So we need to be careful. So we're trying to really create good relationships with other partners in other countries and regions where we can actually say that you can have them, but we want them to stay here as well. So it needs to be a mutual partnership. We would like more Asian countries to explore and actually do the other way around. They can stay in Japan or Singapore or wherever they are in Asia. But if we can, if they want to come here and we can actually benefit from the service there or the product they offer, it's but it should be a mutual partnership.
Okay, thank you. Then it seems like partnership is something very strongly advised by our experts. And we mentioned a little bit of funding, which is also all the time very crucial, obviously, when it comes to expansion. And I think we all experienced the funding winter lately in the last couple of years. Maybe something that started to move forward. So when it comes to our client base, we see like it's a bit more prosperous than as it looked like last year or the year before, but still pretty visible. So what's your experience? Then let's start with Europe now, Elinor, and then we jump back to Asia from here.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've seen for many years now that Swedish companies they move mainly to the US because that's where the money are, and it's cultural wise it's easier to move to the US than to Asia. I also think it's trendy to go to Silicon Valley, of course, if you're a startup, but you need to be careful. Exactly, but yeah, no. So I mean, and when you're doing an IPO, I mean, the big money are it's better to do it on the New York Stock Exchange than in Stockholm. But this is something we definitely need to change. We need to access more capital to Europe. Because if we do, the companies have no reason to move. We have a lot of pension money, for example, which we actually invest in US companies right now. We need them.
Oh.
We need to bring them back to Europe because it's a lot of capital that we actually could mobilize it back. So we need to bring the money home.
That's a wonderful mission. Good luck with that. And when it comes to Asia then, so how has the funding winter been, or was there any there actually? What's your experience? Let's start with Naz.
So here in terms of funding, we have some of the biggest funds in the world. So this is here if they go in, they go big. So the money is here. I have a startup, as I said at the beginning of the call. I have a startup in audio hardware. I've been looking for funding in all continents for 18 months now, and all VCs, 80% of them are investing only in AI, and 30% is something else. And those are the same VCs that invested in crypto before COVID. So that tells you how people surf the waves. It's a little bit, so there's money in Asia. There's a different kind of way, more like in Asia, for example, I can give you a quick example. Toys R Us is bankrupt in America. There's still Toys R Us in Japan because those are different entities. So in terms of the Japanese market, you need to be an entity in Japan to do certain things, and you can operate from abroad, but already the market, if you are a non-Japanese company, it's a big blocking point. But if you are a foreign company established in Japan with partners in Japan, that helps a lot. So they know the value of the Japanese market. They are not stupid. They are far away from stupid. So if you want to enter the market, if you want to have funding, what do you bring to the table? But I believe it's everywhere the same. And if I can add one last thing about Europe, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The funding is quasi non-existent, so it's very based on network. I talk from experience from the French Startup Nation, I think it's called. It's all about network. If you are not from this school or that school, you have close to 0% chance to get any funding. And the taxes. I would love to have a startup in Sweden, but I'm sorry, I'm not paying.
Elinor, I feel like we have to step up at this point a little bit for Europe.
We are working on that as well.
It should be incentives, like you said, the capital from Swedish people should be for Swedish incubators and young entrepreneurs, and have incentive for them to stay. Because if they go to Singapore, then they visit Hong Kong, then they go to Japan, they are not coming back. They are coming back for Christmas to visit their parents, but I tell you, they are not coming back.
Thank you. I think these are very plain and very useful comments, because that's actually real life. So this is what the challenges we have to deal with, right, Elinor? And just one before, Chris, you can also, of course, jump in with the funding part. But I have to ask you, Elinor, whether is it the same experience for you as well, that like 80% of the VC money, that little, which is actually working at the very moment, goes to AI, and then that's it? Or what do you see?
I wouldn't say so in Sweden. We have a pretty unique position when it comes to climate tech in Sweden and the Nordic countries. Climate tech, a different type of deep tech. They're really strong in life science. So we're not as big in AI as the other more southern European countries are, like France, Spain, and Netherlands and so on. So it's a bit different here. But what we see, though, is that I would say 80% of the money goes to the top 10 startups instead. You're probably familiar with the Northvolt story. They attracted most of the capital in recent years. So we really need to start to look broader than just the biggest ones at the moment, because we have really. Yes, sorry.
I just wanted to add that I also noticed it actually, and I try to analyze this for my own fun, basically. That what do you think it relies on, that the money is so concentrated? Is it because investors in Europe are still not really taking enough risk, or a risk-averse attitude they have, or so they need a validation because, okay, if you already invested, then I can invest as well, but I don't dare to do it on,
yeah,
or like
sure. It's a mix of risk-taking and actually experience in investing more long-term. If we want these new rapid technologies to really scale, we need to look at investments in another way. We're lacking a competence in investing in deep tech, I would say. So risk-taking and experience and knowledge, I would say.
Nancy, yes, I saw you have an opinion here, so please.
Yes.
Or maybe experience as well.
what I believe is nowadays the technology to do anything, basically to bootstrap a startup is so available and so cheap that I see a lot of new business, new companies popping out with no VC money. And that gives me hope for the world.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
That
This
gives
is actually,
me hope. Because VC is not what I've seen the last 18 months, and you need to speak their language. So there's a whole thing there. In America, in Europe, the codes are different. Like doing business, it's the same. There's an etiquette. So, but from my experience, so it's very much, and it's a little bit sad to say, but it's very much about return on investment, and that's it. The idea doesn't really count. What you're trying to achieve doesn't really count. How much money can we make with this? So they are looking at the best return on investment, and somebody who has maybe a smaller project, a better idea for climate, for accessibility, for any type of kind of niche project, is immediately discarded. But because technology is very available and cheap today, those don't need VC anymore, and I see tons of that, and I love it.
Yeah, if I can just say one thing about that, we see the same. It's a shift in mindset. Although it depends. If you're a digital startup, you can definitely bootstrap. If you're if you come from research and it's a really you have a really long trip to actually commercialize, it's hard to make it on your own. But yes, we need to.
Depends what you do. Yeah, sure.
Definitely depends on what you do, but we also see that the government needs to step in. We can't just rely on the private capital.
I agree.
And I'm so happy that you brought this up, actually, guys. Thank you very much, because I've been advocating for this, I don't know, for 10 years, that VC is not the only option. And maybe I'm not super popular then if a VC is gonna listen to this conversation, but I'm fine with that. So it's super important, because for many, many years, it became actually like a Pavlov reflex that, okay, I have an idea, I go to a VC. Why? So that it's very, very important, just like what you say, guys, that depending on what you do, that you analyze the different possibilities, because in actually pretty lot of cases, VC is not the most suitable funding option for that specific business. So that's really great, Nancy, if you say that you also. I haven't seen that much without that solution, unfortunately. I would say like 35% I want to see without VC financing. I mean, I want to see much more. But it's good to hear that you see this tendency as well, more and more. And then back to the funding winter and experiences, Chris. So how has it been for you?
Yeah, yeah, I agree with both Eleanor and Nans. Just a couple of additional comments to that. So my experience has been, just for everyone, especially Sweden, maybe, where just the handbrakes were pulled and no VCs wanted to go in. So we have these all these startups and people stressed about the fact that they don't get investments, and then we have the VCs that are stressed that they don't dare to invest anything. So they have too much money and they don't know what to do with it. So it's kind
and now
of
we were
funny.
talking against them a little bit. So
yeah, but it also, like Nan said, I think people have learned a little bit more, because for a while it was so easy. You had an idea, you seemed a reasonable person. Here, take some money and do your stuff and hope for the best. And now people have been forced a little bit to create cool stuff with very little funding. Like, kind of friends and family or nothing at all. So that's a good thing, I think, that has happened thanks to that winter. But at the same time, now what we're hearing is that people are a little bit fed up with this, investor-wise and so on. So 2025 might be a big difference. And then we'll see if everyone has learned to be more cautious over these last couple of years? I think so, but we'll see. And the other thing I just wanted to mention quickly, what I hear, especially from Asia side, when it comes to investors, they really like when there is already investment from another continent, let's say Europe. So that has always been a great benefit. While at the same time, you kind of have to get the first one from where you are, because people are always scared about investing in a company on the other side of the planet. But once you have an investment from there, then they're happy to be the second one. That's just my experience in the last.
That's a really good tip. Have you raised yourself as well, Chris?
No, like I'm close to people who's racing rather than I'm racing. So I see it secondhand every day.
And can you share some stories there, or
on the raising money?
Yes, whether there is something exciting that happened, interesting, or unexpected, or whether it would be any sense different from Europe.
No more than general, like I mentioned, like you had an idea, you got investments 2.5 years ago. That's it. That's all you needed. And now it's highly scrutinized to the point where nothing happens. Yeah, no particular funny story I think about it other than that.
Okay, that's good. So it should be less scary as it sounds from very far away country's perspective, if I understand
so.
you guys correctly.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
And then I think this is also a good lead towards the cultural differences, which we mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, because that's always super interesting. And also when it comes to Europe, for example, from an outside perspective, let it be US or Asia, it's very hard for them to not consider us like one country. But we are not. And even though it's pretty small, and the different countries are very, very close to each other, if you check us on the map, it can be pretty significant business culture differences within Europe, and not to mention between Europe, which is not a thing, so between the different countries in Europe and Asia. So I would like to ask all of you whether you have any kind of humorous or memorable situation when it comes to cultural differences, business culture, of course, that's what we are talking about. Or what's the biggest cultural shock which you experienced, any of you, when it comes to EU-Asia relations?
I can go. I have a soft one. Let's
start with the soft one, and then maybe we can
let's
go
try
deeper.
to keep it settled. So we had an American client, a company based in America. They were doing men cosmetics. So already they did not research enough, because one of their products they wanted to sell in Japan was a balm for the beard. But here nobody has beard. Beard is seen in Japan as dirty, because when people from Europe came to Japan, they were, 6 months or 8 months on a boat, did not bath, and had beards, and they were disgusting. So it's just, so beard, no. And then they had to, because it's cosmetic, and there's a lot of certifications in Japan, like in Europe, to enter the market. So they needed certifications. But they did the process, they sent the faxes, they did everything correctly, but it will not go through. And they did not get any information back on why it would not go through. And so they hired us to try to find what was going on. And basically, long story short, what was going on is that the company doing the certification, we had to fight with them, call them every second day until they had pity on us and gave us the information. Because it's in Japan, they will let you die of 1,000 paper cuts. It just time is on their side. So they will just not give you the information. So they had pity on us because we called every second day. So they had enough. And they told us basically, this company does similar product, does certification on the side as a side business, but the main company is actually doing the same type of products from a Japanese perspective. So they did not want this product to come into market. Kind of, if we had to read between the lines. So basically what we managed to do is make a partnership where the certification company gave the certification, did the manufacturing in Japan for them, and they were allowed to sell on the Japanese market at a certain rate because it was manufactured by a direct competitor, distributed by this. So everything is about market share in Japan, and it's a seller's market. So it's very, very different. If you don't have those notions, you will be met by a wall. And last thing as well, in Japan and in Asia in general, people cannot lose face. So even if you have a contract, even if it was agreed in a meeting, there are ways to communicate. Blocking points, you cannot be direct. So in France, for example, we are direct. That doesn't work. Here you need a partner, or for example, we do this for our clients where we go there and we tell them maybe there is something there that we might, but if the client goes directly to the partner and say, it was written in the contract, why this is not happening, this it's over. For 6 months, you will hear nothing. So that's
a very big difference, actually, and very, very useful to know. And you also mentioned something that no means no, but yes means maybe.
Yes. So in Japan, no means no, and yes, it maybe. And the business process where we can agree, even in Europe, there's big cultural differences. If a French company meets a Swedish company, we understand. We go, we analyze the project, we say yes, we sign the contract, and we go. 3 months, 6 months, whatever the start launch is for everybody to prepare and adjust. Perfect. You have timelines, everything goes. In Japan, it will take 6 months to see one person in a room that can actually make a decision, because there's 10 people in the room and nobody wants to take a decision, because if it's a bad decision, their job is gone. So business etiquette, how to navigate all of that is so Japan is paradoxal, great market, can be very expensive to get in. You cannot cut corners, it's impossible. But it could be for a startup company, if you do well in Japan, it could be a great marketing tool as well, a great way to get funding. It's a beautiful badge that you can wear on your chest. But it's not easy. It's one of the most difficult countries to make business in. But very rewarding if you do it right.
Thank you very much. And how about you, Chris?
Yeah, so let's not get stuck on this too long with me, because I can talk forever probably about it. But
I think it's super exciting. So if you then point out 2 or 3 these type of experiences, I think we can learn a lot from those. So that we don't get shocked, because you already did that. So
yeah, so I avoid Japan because Nams know more about that than me. But when I started doing business with Asia, it basically had 3 places. It was Singapore, it was Hong Kong, and it was Shanghai. And I always saw it that Singapore is basically as close to Sweden as you can get. Hong Kong was somewhere in the middle, and then Shanghai was very, very different. But bear in mind, this was a few years ago. Already in Singapore, that was the first thing I had to learn. Just yes means maybe, because it was very much in Sweden. at least my experience is that if you don't want to do something with someone, we're very clear about it because we don't want to be bothered anymore. But there it could be have a long conversation and they come up with ideas how we're going to work together. Super excited, didn't mean any of it. And then you find out much later. So that I had to learn to analyze quickly, have these control questions to see if they actually want to do stuff. But that took a few visits. And then in Shanghai, I realized that this might be more of a Chris problem than a Shanghai problem, because I told these things to people who either moved to Shanghai or people who are born in Shanghai, and they're shocked and they have no idea how this happened. But everything from if you say yes to a meeting, they may not show up, because even if it was friend of a friend or something like that, if I had to go with a taxi to a meeting, I had to make sure I go with 1 hour early, because I twice got dropped off on a highway because they didn't know the way. So there's a lot of things that would have benefited if I knew how to speak Mandarin, I think. This was back in 2017 though, and I heard it's a little bit different now. But the main thing about that it kind of stands probably a little bit still is that we showed off some stuff that we had done, and we wanted to help. There was a talk with investors, and we wanted to help them with their clients. And they said, well, we already have this. And then they showed me, and I said, well, this is not the same thing. I tried to say as nicely as I could. And they said but it doesn't matter, because by the time you're done with this, we're on to the next thing. And I think they're right, because in China, they move so fast, right? That it's better just to be quick, because by the time you're done with your really good thing, they're on level 3 already. So that was maybe the biggest difference. Like in Sweden, and I think Japan too, like you want to do it really, really right. You don't want to do anything that's even slightly wrong, for good and bad, because it also takes a little bit longer time. So yeah, there are a few examples.
Thank you very much. And Elinor,
yeah, I mean, in Sweden, I have many funny stories, but I think as Swedes in general, we're very we respect other cultures. So we might be more adaptable to other cultures than they are to us, actually. But I was in Singapore a while ago, and I realized just before going that I didn't have any business cards. So I had to print business cards really fast, and now I have a bunch of them in my office that I will never use again, probably at home. And then the startup that I was working for a few years ago, it wasn't me, but my boss went to Japan, and he was pitching to a Japanese companies, and after the pitch, it was a complete silence for like 10 minutes, and he thought he failed big, but in fact they were just reflecting and being respectful.
Wow, I would be so embarrassed if that would happen after presentation. How to react?
A big one in Japan: if you are handed business cards, you must receive it with 2 hands, read it, and not put it in your back pocket, but respect it. So you need to read it, acknowledge, say thank you. And when you hand yours, you need to turn it so that the person can read your business card, not so with 2 hands, and thank you very much for your time. Something like that. So there's
same with China, I think.
That's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of rules and etiquette and everything.
Seems like Japan itself or China, as the matter, would deserve a conversation of its own. Here of the experiences sounds very, very interesting. Thank you, Nance. And it's very different from here is my LinkedIn QR code type of networking that we do here in Sweden, right, Elinor?
Oh yes, definitely.
So thank you very much. The time is about to end, which we've allocated now for today's conversation. So I was thinking that we can do one final question. It should be the usual one. That what advice would you give to companies who try to establish business from Asia to Europe or from Europe to Asia? So Elinor, let's start with you then.
Back to the question we started with, I think. Find a good partner. If it's a big company as a customer, or if it's an ecosystem actor, an incubator, science park, or governmental organization even. Or I mean, in Sweden, we have Business Sweden that you can actually join in a program and explore different markets. So don't do it completely on your own. That would be my either way.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, you kind of summarized it the way I think as well. Find a partner, but then partner is a broad term. It could be just an incubator too, but one partner is very good. And then I think, Nans, you mentioned it too. Just go there, and not just go for meetings. Go around and just realize how things are different. I think would be the main things to do.
So do your homework, basically. That's what you say, Chris, which is very beneficial in all cases, I think, in life.
Yeah. But like with homework, it's better to do it when you're there, to experience it yourself, or rather than just reading up about it beforehand. I think you have to feel it, kind of how every country is very different when it comes to business.
Thank you. And then?
So same. I will add. If not, then bootstrap it yourself. Go there. Go to an incubator. Spend 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month in Singapore, in Japan. Network with people. Find a co-founder in that country. Be very clear about what problem you solve and your expectations. And a side note, don't forget the emerging countries. They are very, very strong. So Japan is stable, but the population is decreasing. China as well. So don't forget the Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia. So depending on what you do, be very clear about your goals. Find a partner, and if you want, don't wait for the right partner. Start it by yourself. Bootstrap, and forget about VC if you can.
Thank you. So and then there is a little surprise lightning round in the end. So one sentence, the key learning which you learned when building cross-continent and cross-border companies and expansion. So just one sentence. So Nans, then you anyway.
In a globalized world, localize.
Thank you. Chris?
Other than what we just said, I would say don't trust everyone what they say that this is what you have to do to make it work.
Thank you. And Elinor?
Be curious and work hard for a long time.
Thank you very much, guys. I think these were amazing one sentence key takeaways in the end. And thank you very much for your time. And thank you very much for the insights and thoughts and experiences which you shared with us. And everyone else, thank you for listening and watching us. And let us know if you have any questions. Nothing has arrived as far as I can see, but please feel free to reach out to any of us. We are super happy to answer any kind of questions later on. And we will see, maybe we're going to do another event round of this later on. So
thank you,
we're
Carola.
going to keep in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Have a nice day
Thank
ahead.
you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.